Hello, hello, and happy Friday, everyone. Hope everyone is having a great end to the week. Welcome to another episode of Titan Talk. I'm Isiah, Kilgoon with me, just us today, but we're going to be going over the Open Beta 9 update notes that are live right now on smite2.com. So if you all want to pull those up and follow along with us, be more than happy to do that. And as you might be able to see, we've got a little bit more decorations here in the room that I think I lost audio here. There we go.
Yeah.
Short audio issue, but we're here. But yeah. Room was a little bit more decorated, so we're making progress every show. It's looking good.
Yeah, in the same way that we are building Smite 2, we are building our new stream room.
Yeah.
It's, a day at a time, and I think it's looking much better. The camera angle is a little bit more pulled out, so you can see that the room is a little bit bigger than maybe it looked previously. Yeah. We've got some decorations behind us. You can still see the windows. You can see people as they walk by, but we thought this was a better look. Shout out to Hindu man who pulled this together. And yeah, it's looking better every day.
I said on the weight screen, but it's starting to feel a little bit more like home every show, which is good. So one more quick little hit that we wanted to call out. It is storming really bad.
Yes.
I actually just saw lightning through the window here. So there may be a scenario to where we lose power for a little bit, but hey, we'll see. We're going to do the show as normal, but if there is an issue with the power or anything, just know that it's probably because Zeus is just outside storming right over by the office.
My wife just texted me and she was like, it's a horrible thunderstorm at home. What's going on at your place? And I was like, yeah, it's getting bad here, but I think we're a little bit further. Like, I think they got it first. So yeah. Anyway, it might get bad here.
Yeah,
we'll see.
But the show must go on, so I will bring up the handy dandy PC, not laptop again. I gotta get
somebody
used
said
to
you should say the handy dandy desktop.
Oh, the handy dandy desktop. Whoever said that, that's good.
Yep.
The handy dandy desktop is going up right now. And let's talk about Open Beta 9. So the plan is for Open Beta 9 to launch on Monday. We've got the Saints of War. Oh, you've got a little mannequin.
We just got to the two shot,
like,
and I'm like, who the hell is this? Is somebody sitting behind me? No, it's a mannequin.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just like, what is going on?
A little bit of a jump scare. You weren't expecting it.
Anyway, sorry. Let's get. I need to stop hitting this table too because I think I'm breaking the audio every time I barely tap it. So.
No worries. So Open Beta 9 plan is for Monday. I believe we're going to be starting our maintenance just a little bit earlier than normal just because Riley here is going to be helping us out with some back-end maintenance. So maintenance is going to start around 6 a.m. Eastern on Monday versus the usual 7. But we'll get right into it. So we've got Guan Yu hitting the battleground, short little summary, and then all the info for Guan Yu that we showed off and talked about in our Monday show. We've also got the new Springtime Traveler arriving in the market, the Wandering Market, Buzzing Springtime. You've got the Hive Mother Umoja skin, the Bee's Knees title, Buzz Off Ward, Sweet Honey Badge, and then the Bumble.
That's a typo.
Yeah.
In two places.
Yes, Bumblebee Jingwei. We'll get that polished up as soon as we get off the show. And then you get that classic skin for just buying the premium Traveler page. So.
And the classic skin will be available for Legacy Gems after the market is no longer available. And we haven't 100% decided what we're doing with the other stuff. So, that's just letting people know that are waiting for the classic skin. It will be available for Legacy Gems after the market is gone away.
Sweet. In terms of new skins and cosmetics, we've got Miss Senshi Bologna plus her prisms that are going to be available. Shadow Sentry Cerberus is the cross-gen skin hitting the battleground in Open Beta 9. And for cosmetics, we've got some Mother's Day stuff that is coming up. So there will be an event, a full event that you can play and unlock the Mom Tattoo Jump Stamp. And then alongside that event, there will be a special first win of the day quest for you to get for one first win of the day to get the Mother Tiamat badge in Smite 2.
Yeah, I was talking with India who set the event up, and there is a quirk with how the event will be set up where basically it's going to look like it replaces one of your Wandering Market XP quests that you get every day. And once you complete it, it will look like for the weekend that the reward is still going to be that badge, but you will get Wandering Market coins.
Cool.
Or the XP, or it's XP to get to coins.
XP towards the coins.
Yeah. So you will still get that once you have finished it and gotten the badge. It just is going to look like that's the reward even after you have claimed it, just because of the way we had to set it up. So for the weekend, it may look a little bit funky on your quest, but we thought it was more worth doing to have a fun quest giveaway.
For sure,
not.
Much community request as well. I'm happy that we were able to get that in.
Yeah.
For the supporter store, we have the Esports Quips Pack 1. This Quips pack features iconic caster calls from Smite's history. So if you're interested in unlocking some esports quips, they're going to be available in the supporter store. And then moving right along to general, we have got announcer packs in Smite 2 coming in the Open Beta 9 patch. So they will be available in the classic announcer pack chest. And this is going to be the first wave, right, Kilgoon? I think they're around 33 that are going to be available in the chest, with more coming in future updates.
And that's, I think that's maybe about a third of the total number that we think that we can port over. There's some that we can't because of, contract stuff. They were more tied to Smite 1. But, first wave should be good.
Cool. The ping system we talked about on Monday, mouse and keyboard users can now use that middle mouse button to ping wherever your targeter is in the map. We've got some God Builder improvements, adding search functionality, and it's now integrated into the auto buy and auto build systems. And we've got even more features for God Builder that we're looking at for future updates after this.
Yeah, I know that two things that are still on the to-do list are copy to. So basically being able to duplicate a build and then edit the copy. And also, what is it? Basically like being able to filter items by stats in the God Builder screen so that you can say, what are all the crit items or what are the crit and attack speed items? Cool. I'm going to use those to make my build, because it's a little bit hard to find the items that you're looking for.
With everything, just all the items in the left-hand corner. So I actually saw a mock-up of the filter system for sorting items by stats earlier on this week, and it's looking good.
Those won't be in this update. It's just, as kind of a what's coming next for the system.
Cool. So God Mastery, we've added a new icon to the God cards and portraits on the God page and God Select screens that shows your current mastery progress for all the gods. So,
this is great. Shout out to Danny. Like he pulled this together. We were talking about it, and I photoshopped something together really quick, and I was like, could it look kind of like this? And he did it in a day and a half.
Yeah,
it was just
that's sick.
He was like, oh no, this would actually be really easy to do because we have this element and we have this element, and I can just slam them together. And shout out to the UI team. They always make amazing stuff happen. Yeah. But Danny was just able to pull that together really quickly, and I'm excited that we were able to get it in the game. So.
Moving on in general, chat. The chat window will now show notifications when you or an allied player purchases or picks up a team-based item or consumable. So things like wards, the Executioner, Talisman of Purification, Runic Bomb, basically anything that's going to be helpful for the entire team. You're going to get a little notification in the chat window.
Yep. Anything that you might want to play around, I think, is kind of the general thought. There is one thing that we noticed, that it's not playing any kind of a sound effect, where there is a cue that's played in Smite 1 when one of your allies buys one of these kinds of items and you get the little chat message for it. And I'm not sure that the audio cue is going to be in for OB9, but it is something we're aware of and will be added by OB10, if not for OB9.
Cool. And then another thing in chat that got in a little bit after our Monday show, our crew made a change. So chat messages will now display longer in the chat window before fading away. I know we got a lot of feedback that it just wasn't staying on your screen for long enough. So we did make a change to extend that time.
Yeah. So hopefully that feels a little bit better. We can further adjust the amount of time that it stays on screen if it still doesn't feel like it's right, but I think it has felt better in our playtest at least.
Yeah.
So
cool. And I think the last thing under general, one thing that we talked about when Emma was on that we were able to get in and start doing. So the team has started rolling out new Pantheon-specific backgrounds for the God page, starting with the Egyptian Pantheon. Keep an eye out for new backgrounds for other Pantheons in future updates, but it looks really sick.
That's awesome. I didn't even know we were doing that. I always love when I'm surprised by something on
right?
shows.
Yeah.
Like we talked about doing it, but I didn't realize that they had gotten time to get it in. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
so,
I was talking with Emma yesterday, and they were able to sneak it in for OB9, which is super cool.
Yeah, I always Emma always has one extra
I know,
thing
right?
She sneaks in. It's awesome. So appreciate everything on everybody on the team, but I always appreciate when it's like, oh, cool, there's something fun that I didn't know.
I know, right? And this Egyptian one looks so good. Yeah. I can't wait to see what we do for all the other Pantheons whenever the team gets to them.
Yep, and I think, as much as people have liked to clown on us for putting beta on every screen of the game, right? There's a reason why we did, and it's because we don't feel like the game is done, right? And we want to make sure that, when we remove that, we feel like the game is in a good place to where we're like, cool. We want you to judge this as a finished product now. And we know that some people they ignore it and they're judged as a finished product now. But I think you can see with every little change like this how we are working to make the game better and how this the sky is kind of the limit for us. So.
Sweet. All right, let's talk about ranked up next. Got a lot of details from Max last night about our upcoming new split. It's going to be the spring split for Season 0, and it is going to incorporate a soft reset. So let's talk about it. So
that's a lot of words from Max.
I know, right? Lots of stuff. Max has been cooking. So there's going to be a soft reset of player skill rating in Open Beta 9. The soft reset will be as follows. So players that are greater than 4,000 SR or Obsidian 2 are going to be reset to 4,000 SR Obsidian 2. Players that are 3,400 to 4,000 SR are going to be reset to 3,400. 2,800 to 3,400 reset to 2,800. And then if you are 2,800 or below, you will not be affected by this soft reset. So it's really going to impact the top of the top a little bit heavier than everyone else.
And then, well, I'll let you get through the next part before I comment. But real quick, I just going to say, like, this is not... it's not like this is a floor for you, right? If you're reset to, 3,400 and then you lose, your SR is going to go down, right? Like this is just like a new starting point.
Correct.
Not like this is as low as it can go.
Yeah, so the reset's intended to shake up the top end of the leaderboard and allow player skill rating to more accurately reflect recent matchmaking changes. There will also be an SR update in OB9. Max has made some changes with the team to be a little bit less aggressive for adjustments at the start of a player's ranked career and ranked journey. We've made adjustments to limit SR inflation. And lastly, just more consistent adjustments match to match. So there's less variability in plus minus SR, whether you're winning or losing. In an incoming update, there will be further changes made to the SR algorithm, mainly to more accurately take into account a player's current SR in regards to the average SR of the lobby when making adjustments. So lots of good stuff. Let's talk about ranked rewards because we kind of touched on it earlier on in the week, but we did kind of announce that, just due to some of the limitations and some of the bandwidth of the team, we weren't able to get the winter split ranked rewards in time for OB9. Those are going to be coming in OB10. There are going to be 2 rewards handed out. There's going to be a ranked border. This reward will be based on a player's maximum recorded SR at any point in the winter split. So any point from this Sunday back in this year of Smite 2, the highest rank that you reach is going to display what the border is. And then ranked titles, we've got a few of those. We've got the Deity Season 0 Winter Split title that's going to be granted to the top 100 players when servers go down for maintenance on Monday morning. So if you're looking to get that Deity title for the Season 0 ranked split, play a lot this weekend, get your games in, because as soon as servers go down on Monday, that's kind of the stopping point to where we're going to be taking the top 100 players for that title.
And if you want a ranked border, you can still play some ranked in these last few days and, get to silver rank and get your ranked border. One thing that is a little bit different from Smite 1 is that this is just a single border that kind of evolves based on the rank that you got to. So you're not going to get like 15 ranked borders and then be able to equip a lower one to joke around or whatever reason. Some people like to do that. You just will get this one border that will display your max rank achieved. So I think it's a better change, but some people may, I just don't want people to be upset when it happens that we didn't tell them it was happening. So I want to be clear about that.
That's a good call out. We've also got the Demigod title that's going to be granted to all players that reached 5,000 SR at any point during the winter split. And then last but not least, the Speedrunner title, the highly coveted one, is going to be granted to the 10 players who most quickly reached Demigod during the winter split. So really cool stuff. Really cool ranked rewards coming for the winter split in Open Beta 10.
Yeah, and still Season 0, right? Yes. Still beta, right? We're going to keep grinding and keep maybe bigger and better ranked rewards in the future.
Yeah. All right, moving on to Conquest. Again, we mentioned this in our Monday update, but we didn't really go over the numbers.
Yes.
So this is the shift that we're doing that kind of tunes game pacing a little bit to help more closely match your experience versus your golden hand and your item builds, right, Kilgoon?
Yeah. So basically, like, people were getting, from what I remember, people were getting to. I've been playing on this change so long that I'm trying to remember which one it was. But I'm pretty sure that, like, you were getting to max level really far before you had enough gold to be able to get to max items, essentially. And what that was doing was it was putting too much of a emphasis on like base stats, which was making, like historically like Guardian type characters from Smite 1 get a decent amount of like base stats in power because they aren't expected to buy much power and they don't have much power scaling.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So in those kinds of characters, they were benefiting from that because they were getting this power by level, and the power coming from spending your gold wasn't coming at the same rate.
Right.
So basically, the goal of this was to try and bring them more aligned so that gold is and your items are just as valuable as your levels, and they're happening more along the same pacing. Yeah. So I don't know if that was a good explanation or not, but hopefully that was a decent one.
No, that was good. So for the gold changes, we've made gold scaling changes across the jungle, lane minions, and the side Elder Harpy camps. And then XP changes, of course, decrease the scaling just a little bit for basically everything that's on the map, from the jungle to the lanes, your Harpy camps, and the Scorpion camps as well. We've also increased the minion versus minion damage scaling over time, just to make it a little bit longer for a wave that is on the side that's not being affected by any god play, just a little bit longer for a minion wave to kill each other. Basically just kind of help out balancing of the wave if it's being left unattended. And then last but not least, we decreased minion versus Phoenix damage as well.
Yeah, like macro play should be important, right? You shouldn't just be able to ignore a massive wave and expect that it's not going to take your tower and take your Phoenix. But we were seeing that relatively small waves were able to take Phoenixes down pretty quickly. And it felt a little bit over punishing, I would say. So the goal of that change is not to make macro not matter. It's just to make it matter the appropriate amount, hopefully. Like you should pay attention to it, but not if you forget about it for 2 seconds, it's dead, right? So hopefully it's better.
Sweet. And then moving on to God balance. God and item balance pretty much unchanged from the show that we went over on, what was it, Wednesday, when we had Clumsy on to go through things. So we'll kind of quickly go through these, but we've already talked about them in detail on our Wednesday show. But buffs for Athena, Bellona, Nemesis, Ra. Rom is getting a little bit of a shift, nerfing the aspect, but kind of buffing the base Rom. Susano seeing a buff, Thanatos seeing a buff, Ymir seeing a buff as well, and then Kali's aspect releasing on Monday, May 12th.
And Kali's aspect is very fun. We've been playing with it and playtest a lot. If you haven't played it on Flash Test, I recommend logging into the Flash Test, which I think is probably going to happen after this.
Oh, nice, cool.
I'm not sure, but if not, play it in live when it comes out, and it's very fun.
Yeah,
so
I've been seeing a lot of people playing around with it during the Flash Test earlier this week, and Kali's cooking a little bit as a ranged carry, so super cool to see.
I was getting blown up by Travis in the playtest today, so but it's okay. I was blowing him up yesterday, so all things are balanced.
Nice, yes. For item balance, of course, we made some pretty large shifts to penetration.
Yep.
All those are detailed here, but the TLDR is that percent pen has been removed from a bunch of items, but then more front-loaded into items like Titan's Bane and Obsidian Shard, just to make it give you a little bit more variety in your build path without having to worry about splashing 3 or 4 items to get enough percent penetration.
Yeah, and I have found myself more and more thoughtfully building in playtests, right? Where it's like, what's the enemy team doing? What do I need to counter that thing, right? And some games I do find myself prioritizing that percent pen early. Other games I find myself saying, I don't really need it. I can buy, a Kins, or I can buy something that's more like percent health damage, or I can just
buy on-hit stuff like Tearfing. And
it just feels like there's a lot more opportunity to be creative, and there's a lot more things that can work.
Yeah. So, and then we've got some general item changes here. A big one, Gauntlet of Thieves, seeing a shift to be more health focused versus protections focused.
Do not be surprised when the patch goes live that you are not getting protections from Gauntlet of Thieves. It is just a ton of health, 1,000 health basically.
And let's see, any other interesting stuff to call out? The mystical mail changed, where the damage now scales based off of distance to enemies, is a really interesting change. I'm excited to see what players do with that.
Yep. And the voids
And the void
work
items
the same way.
similar treatment as well.
Yep.
That is it for item balance. VFX, we have a new section here in patch notes that we don't normally include, but there's a lot of work that went in on the VFX side that we wanted to call out. So Achilles has received a major ability VFX rework, and his targeters have been visually updated. So if you're playing with Achilles in Open Beta 9, look at the new VFX for all of his abilities and his targeters, as well as the targeters for Bellona, Athena, and Medusa. VFX department just did a pass and updated all those targeters. We've done a few in the past as well, but a larger work from the VFX department in Open Beta 9. So really cool. And then last but not least, for bug fixes, quality of life. Players cannot use wind sprites if they are feared, grabbed, knocked back, levitating,
Hard
mesmerized.
CC. If they are hard CC, they cannot use wind sprites.
Yeah. So, we got a lot of frustration and a lot of bug reports around that. So that's been fixed up. For Gods Jingwei, we fixed an issue where Persistent Gus, the AoE, did not show for local players. Yamoja, we fixed an issue where the bouncing bubble projectile from her AO1 did not use the correct skin color scheme effects on low settings. For Hun Bats, we fixed an issue with his Sacred Monkey AO3 VFX materials. And then for items, we fixed an issue where several items were benefiting from lifesteal. And then Fencer's Buckler, which is a Tier 2 item, has been removed from the game as it no longer builds into any current Tier 3 items.
Yep.
So,
can always come back, but no reason for it right now.
Yeah.
So.
And that is a wrap for our Open Beta 9 full update notes overview. Patch notes are live on the website if you want to pull them up on smite2.com and read through them. I know we went over the balance stuff fairly quickly, so if you missed the Wednesday show and want to deep dive into all that stuff, you're more than welcome to on the website right now.
Yep, and there was one person asked auto build with God Builder. So auto build and God Builder do work together now, but you do need to basically you need to set what you want to auto build with before the match starts, if that makes sense. So when you go in on the Gods tab, if you pin a build, then that build will be available for you to select in auto build. There's no verification. So if it is not a valid build, then it's not going to auto build correctly for you. But if it's a valid build, then it will auto build properly. So
cool. All right. Well, we got about 40 minutes left in the show. We went over patch notes for Open Beta 9. So.
And yes, custom auto levels also work. It will automatically follow the skill tree or the level tree that is set. So it's pretty great.
Sweet. Well, let's get into Q&A, Kilgoon, shall we? I figured, we spent a lot of time talking on
we haven't taken many questions
Yeah,
this week.
Monday, Wednesday show were really full. So it's good for us to leave the majority of the show today up for questions. So let's get into it. Let me pull my iPad a little bit closer so I can read the chat. And let's see. Follow-up question. Would it be possible to allow players to change the order in which auto-buy builds in the middle of a game?
So it would be very difficult because where would it start from the new build? Would it start on the next slot that you have open? Or would it start with the first item that you haven't purchased on that build? Or it's the logic of how that would actually work in practice is very difficult. Would it sell everything you have and then try and build from the new build? I don't know. It's something that has been asked a lot, but we just don't have a good solution to that. So if we can come up with a good solution, we'd be willing to consider it. It's not like we're opposed to it, but it's just how do we actually handle that?
Let's see here. Can we get an ETA on favoriting and randomizing music and announcer packs?
So it's just not the top priority at all. We have so many UI things that we can be doing that will make the core game feel a lot better that it's not going to be anytime soon. Just to be transparent. It's one of those things that would be easy, but we have a lot of easy things that would also just make the game a lot better overall. So look at this mastery thing, right? That was a thing that we were able to get done in a couple of days, and I think it's going to be huge for the game, seeing what your mastery level is, in the match lobby. But it's just how do we prioritize? We have so much stuff that we want to do.
Yeah.
I have very many documents of things that I want done for the game. So.
Artisan program news. Kilgoon, we talked with some of the crew that were working on the Artisan program earlier this week after someone asked in our Wednesday show.
Yeah.
So basically what's happened right now is we've already contacted a round of folks to get involved, but those folks were more focused on the 3D side of things. And I believe we're going to do another round early next week, mid next week, for those that are focused maybe on the 2D art side of things.
Yep.
So kind of doing things in waves a little bit. We have started the process of reaching out to folks that we wanted to get involved. But if you're more focused on the 2D side, you should hopefully be able to hear back from the crew early to mid next week.
Mm-hmm. Is Emoji's bubble not supposed to go over walls anymore? No, it is still supposed to go over walls. That is a bug that we are looking into. It will probably, I'm not going to say for sure, but it might not be fixed for OB9, but it is something we're aware of. And I know that our programmers were looking into it today. So I'm just not sure if it will make final build for when OB9 goes live. Is Berserker supposed to proc every 8 seconds when below 60% or just once anytime below that threshold? It was procking 100% of the time before the Kali patch, but doesn't now. It is not supposed to proc 100% of the time. That was not the intended behavior. It's supposed to be like when you fall below the threshold, and then I believe there's some internal cooldown, and then like if you're still below the threshold when the internal cooldown resets, then it's supposed to happen again. But it's just, it was too good procking nonstop if you were below the threshold, and it was never intended to work that way. Chat for consoles. I do not have an ETA on chat for consoles. We still need to go through full certification to be able to turn on chat for consoles. And I would like to do it, but we have not gotten permission to do that yet. Did I go back to Smite 1 and review the ward's duration meter and the yellow flash icon on the minimap? I did, and I wrote it up, and it is now on the UI backlog. Again, it's probably not going to be the top priority. There's other things that we think are probably more impactful to making the game better, but it is something that is towards the top, I would say. So we will get to it.
Have we looked into Rama's self nameplate blocking his view when he ults? Yes, and I believe
we fixed that, didn't we?
I think, but I also know that just a general pass on nameplates as a whole is something that's on the team's list as well.
Yeah, so. But we should probably make a note and make sure that we actually did get that one fixed. Yeah. I think that did get fixed.
Make it a note now.
Will the HUD editor get further support? Adding something like multiple HUD save files would be nice. Potentially. I think there are things that we definitely want to get into the HUD editor. Excuse me. One of them is getting like snap to grid. I think it's really hard to make a HUD that has things that are aligned and are the same size, and it breaks my OCD brain when I can't get that last pixel perfect. So there are things that we want to do, but it's not, it's definitely not done. In terms of multiple HUD slots, I don't have a firm, it's something that we've talked about. We've also talked about maybe being able to save and load and share HUD layouts and stuff. But again, it's just of the UI things that we could be focused on, is that the thing that has the most impact? I think the next HUD related thing that we'll probably see is we've been talking about we think that one of the potential issues with the game right now is that the default HUD is pretty good for PC. It's about what PC players expect, but it is not very console friendly. And on Smite 1, console always had a different default HUD that has just a big health bar at the bottom of the screen, and then your abilities are off in one corner, and then your relics or actives and relics in Smite 2 are off on the other corner, and then your items are vertical on a line down the there's a lot of changes to the layout that I think makes it more approachable as a console game to console gamers. And so that's probably the next HUD thing that will happen, is we'll have a different default HUD for console, but you'll still be able to go into settings and change to use the PC one, or you can use the console default on PC as well, I guess. I have edited my HUD to be like that on PC, just as an experiment, and I think it makes the game feel more like what I would like. So and it should be a pretty easy test for us to run. So that's probably the next HUD thing. Let's see. Go for it.
I was going to say, any discussion about bringing back the goodwill/commendation system?
We've talked about things like that. I would say that if it comes back, it probably won't come back exactly the way that it worked in Smite 1. The problem with those commendation systems is that usually the way it worked in Smite 1, what we saw is that, like, if you won, you commended everybody on your team. If you lost, you commended no one, right? And that doesn't really serve the purpose of the way the system should be working. Yeah. So I think that, like, the reason for those kinds of systems are to celebrate players that you play with on a less granular I won or I lost, metric. So I would like to do something like that, but I don't think we have the perfect design for it yet. So because of that, it's, again, not like a super high priority. Yeah. I think that Goodwill is another interesting system that I just don't think it had enough impact. Like, I think the idea of
it's cool.
Don't
right?
leave games. Be a good person. Yeah. Like, that all makes total sense, and that's something that we want to support. But, like, it didn't really do too much, right? It made you get more worshipers, right? Yeah. Was that it? And you got, like, a reward at the end of the year if you
didn't get banned or suspended.
Yeah. It's like, good job not getting banned.
Yeah.
So I think it's something that we want to look at, but again, it's just not. It has not been the top priority for our team right now.
Kilgoon, do you have any updates on the progress the team's made on the movement system?
No, we're still kind of working on it in the background. It's going to be a while before you hear anything else on it. To be frank, the last few things were bigger things, so we'll get back to it when we get back to it.
Can you add the option to search gods by searching their pantheon name? You could do this in Smite 1, but not Smite 2. I'll take a note.
Yeah. Could we consider disabling support starters in Joust like they were in Smite 1? Double heroism is oppressive. That's a good note. We could ask design about it. I agree that heroism is the most oppressive thing in the game, and it drives me crazy, and I would like to remove it. But nobody else shares my opinion on the dev team. So I literally yell every time heroism triggers because I'm just like, I did something good, and now they get defenses out of it. And it's like, it's so bullshit.
I know Clumsy mentioned that the crew is looking into anti-shield options as well. But
I just don't want them to get a shield when I do something that should lead to their death. Like, it just drives me crazy. But anyway, that's just why I'm not a designer, and I just am a talking head. My Lonnie just like spit at me.
Oh no.
Will with more content purchasable with diamonds, can we get a diamond sale soon? We don't have any plans to do a diamond sale anytime soon. At some point maybe we'll think about it, but there is not one currently scheduled, I can say. So if you're waiting for a diamond sale, it's not on our planning calendar at the moment.
Kilgoon, this was mentioned on our Wednesday show. Were you able to look with the team about potential grass textures missing on console?
No, I need to follow up on that one. I'm sorry.
I'll take a note for you.
We've been working. I'm talking about a lot of like UI stuff today, and part of it's because like on the dev side, we've been just kind of working through reprioritizing our UI backlog, and like. If you're not familiar with just like general software development, like the backlog is just a list of all the things that you want to do.
It's your to-do list.
It's your to-do list, right? And we last prioritized it a couple months ago, and we kind of have gotten through like most of the really major things that we had prioritized, and then it was like the next things on the list that are currently on the calendar were like, I'm not going to say that they weren't important, but we felt like it was important to look at the full list of potential UI things we could be doing, and then say, what are the things we think are the top priorities to be doing? So a lot of my thought this week, while I'm not on this show, has been like UI features and what the implementation of those features would actually look like, and then trying to prioritize all that. Yep. So fun stuff.
Is the current plan for God level customization to eventually allow everything to be customized on a per God basis? Ward skins, announcer packs, global emotes, etc. With you being able to set a default on your account level. I will say that's kind of opposite feedback from what we've gotten, right?
Yeah, most people just would rather everything was equipped on a per account level, and they don't want to deal with it on a per God level. Yeah. So that's the feedback we generally get. I can see both sides of the argument. I personally was one of the people that was pushing for customizing things on a per God level because I thought it was interesting to have unique loadouts for each God, and kind of like color matching and stuff like that. But most people seems like aren't really big fans of that. So the next probably feature that's coming there is more of a equip all type function, so that it is easier to equip all of your loadouts easily. And then from there, we'll see what the next thing we need is. We may do equip all unequipped or something, because it's also the thing of like, but I did set up my really cool Anubis card that I don't want you to change.
Exactly,
when I equip all. It's just like, that's when we run into all the difficulties. Ranked Joust soon. I'm going to. I'm going off script.
Cool.
I just want like general like hot take feedback to this. How would you feel, chat, about a system where there's only one Joust queue, same as it is now, but there is some level of like progression to this queue starting at level 0. So whether it's like from clay to bronze or whether it's from like level 1 to 50 or whatever, it doesn't matter for this pitch. Yeah. So it starts out as normal queue. Once you hit a certain threshold, then picks and bans are enabled. Yeah. And there is a leaderboard associated with it. So there's always some visible progression associated with it. And then once you hit a certain threshold, picks and bans are enabled. And you can't go back and play the version without picks and bans if you're above the threshold. Is that an interesting system to you, chat?
I see some yeses. I see some love it. That's a W.
Awesome. No, that's terrible. They always ban Aphrodite. Okay, that's fair. Okay, awesome. I just wanted like the gut reaction to that because it's something we've been talking about internally. Is like just in general, even like, is it, this was specifically about Joust, but like one of the things that is fun about Smite is competing.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that like, even having, and this maybe is a step too far, and chat can tell me that I'm dumb, but like having separate ranked and unranked conquest queues, like, is that actually the best thing for the game, or is it better to introduce people to the idea that you're competing from the beginning of playing conquest, but you don't actually have you don't have picks and bans until you get to a certain level, like. We don't see like full leaderboards until you get to a certain level. So it's still kind of like you're playing casual up to a certain point. But I think it would like get more people into the mindset of competition and get more people to be like pushing to play on a more competitive level, which is when Smite's at its most fun. So, people who are like, just make pick bans from the start. We will never do that because when you are a new player, you need to have the safety of being able to say, I can only play one god and they banned my god and oh no, right? Like there has to always be no bans for new players, basically. So anyway, I don't know. This is like we always have to think about the full like scale of players, right? Where like I think that high end like if you're a good player, you're mostly playing with good players. You're mostly playing like high-end ranked games and stuff. And the way that you view the game is very different from the way that like we have to try and keep in mind, you know? And I think that I would say that like 80% of the balance changes and everything that we do are intended for high-level play because that's where the game is at its most complete. But if there's things that would ruin the game for low-level players, then we have to be cognizant of that. So,
that was good. That was a good off-script gut check from Chad.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the feedback. You know, it's just things that we've been having conversations about. Like, you know, again, it's a UI feature, right? And it's like, is that a UI feature that's worth putting time into making this kind of like universal ranked system for Joust or for Conquest? So anyway, thanks for letting me go on my little soapbox there. You know, I love this kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. We've talked about this before, but will the yellow camp be receiving a visual change like the other camps? I think just the Conquest map overall, there's some spots that the team wants to take a look at. I know you mentioned the bases in a previous show.
I think the next thing that the Conquest map is getting, I'm pretty sure about this actually, is the trees.
Cool.
The trees that we use in Conquest right now are really, I don't want to like belittle anybody's work, but they're really bad, right? And they don't fit the aesthetic of what we're trying to do, and they're everywhere. So it's one of these like really prominent elements that's all over the map that makes the game feel significantly worse. So I think the trees are the next thing that will be updated, and then we'll see where we go from there.
Yeah, but I know the yellow camp. I know it didn't get a pass in this initial one just because it already had a little bit of
some
flavor
art already. Yeah. Will you bring back vertical options in the HUD editor? Maybe eventually. I think that's one thing that if this console HUD, depending on what angle we take with it, like we may add a vertical items at least, because we would need that for if we're trying to mirror the Smite 1 console HUD exactly. So there may be an option like that coming soon. In terms of vertical options of all of the elements, definitely a little bit further out because again, like we're prioritizing the things that we think will have the most impact, and this would be prioritized because it would be part of the console HUD versus just an extra alternative option for people who choose to use the HUD editor.
Yeah. Did you see the Reddit post about followers in Smite 2, like the little bee? What are your thoughts on it?
Dude, you guys love the bee.
I know, right?
No, the bee was really fun. I think that we've talked a lot about like pets and followers and like different things like that over the years. Trying to find a way that people would find them interesting, but not annoying or distracting from the gameplay, right? Because like at one point we were talking about, oh yeah, what if there was just like a little pet that followed you around? And it's like, well, you'd never turn it on because once you turn a corner, people can't see you. But if your pet's behind you, then they'd be like, now I know where he is, you know? So I think that the kind of floating buddy system is an interesting angle for it. And it's definitely something we can consider in the future. We love the idea. We've always loved the idea of having some kind of like a pet, right? Or, like Chang'a's got her little courier rabbit, right? Like, what if everybody had a courier rabbit, right? Like, we've had those kinds of discussions in the past. But I think that the floating bee dude is kind of an interesting trial for something that could potentially be a future feature. And just make it so only you can see it. People don't like that. I understand that you're like, no, I would like it because I get to see my guy.
I want to show it off, right? I got this cute little dog. I want everyone to see it, you know?
It's every time we do something that's only for you, nobody cares. Part of the allure of this is just like a human psychology thing. It's like, why do you want a Lamborghini? Is it because you want to drive a Lamborghini, or you want people to see that you have a Lamborghini, right? And it's like it's part of column A and part of column B. And even people that are very not vain, not self-centered, not like showy people, there's a part of you that at your core, even if you don't admit it, is like, but I want to share this thing that I have with other people, right? Even if it's not in like a look at me way, it's like I'm happy about this and I want to share it with people, right? So. Is it possible to start banning new gods in ranked for a period of time? That's something that we have discussed. We should probably have that conversation with design again.
I know we've been back and forth on it a little bit, right?
Yeah. If we can take a note on that, we can make sure that we just mention it to them. I will say that, like, we're in a different spot than Smite 1, where we were adding gods so quickly that we don't want to, like, leave gods disabled for a very long time. And it may even just be like, for the first week of the 2-week patch, we would disable them or something, because usually we get in hot fixes for balance by the end of the first week. So that could avoid some of the worst offender cases. I think the other thing that people are asking about is, like, well, this wouldn't be as big of a problem if there were more bans in ranked, right? So, you know, I think there's a lot of potential solves to the issue, but just something we need to think about. This is an interesting question. Is it possible to replace 3 K-Pots with a purchasable extra item slot? It might offer more interesting gameplay than flat stat increases. It would. So theoretically, anything is possible with enough work. But our UI is built around the idea of you never having more than 7 items and 2 consumables. 7 including your starter item, right? And a relic. So it's like 7 items, 2 consumables, and a relic is kind of like the maximum number of squares that we have. So we'd need to rework everything to support another square if that was something that we chose to allow. And I think it would just be such a big arc of work for the benefit that we get out of it that it probably isn't worth doing, even though it is a really cool idea.
What are the hardest Smite 1 gods that we have ported over so far, and who do you dread to port over as you work through the rest of the cast?
That's a good question. I would say, like, the one that everybody dreads is King Arthur.
Yeah.
Like, he just keeps getting delayed. He's been supposed to be ported like 3 times already, but he just has so much unique tech and so much.
We've talked about him multiple times on the show.
Yeah, I think that he's just the one that nobody's looking forward to. I would say that, like, you know, there's some others that have their own things, but I think that he's probably the most annoying. Who's the hardest to do so far? I mean, probably the Morrigan.
Oh, that's a good one.
But we intentionally did her early so that we could solve problems as they arise, rather than having to solve 100 gods worth of problems at once when we brought her over. So probably the Morrigan. We're
still working through problems.
She's a special one.
Oh, yeah.
Are the newer Smite 1 gods easier to port over? So this is an interesting question, because this lets me talk about game development. There are, in a studio of our size, even though we're not Rockstar, we're not these guys that have hundreds and thousands of people working on their games and are still delaying GTA 6. We are a relatively small team, but even in a small team, people have their specializations, and the person who is implementing the Gods kit as a designer in blueprints is not the person who's coding unique gameplay functionality as a programmer, is not the person who is making the UI icons, is not the person who's doing the audio, is not the person who's making the model, is not the person who's rigging the model, is not the person who's animating the model, right? And every God has their own, like, it affects different departments differently, right? So the thing about new gods is that new gods generally have the best models, and because of that, like, they are usually easier from an artistic standpoint. In bringing them over, you don't need to touch as much. There's still things we need to do, and I'm not saying it's easy, but it's easier from an artistic perspective to bring over most of the new gods. Obviously, somebody like Charon, who you also have a boat and the weird animation and tech art stuff tied to that, like, he would be harder. But like Isiah. Isiah would probably be a very easy god to bring over from an artistic standpoint. But most new gods, newer Smite 1 gods, have very complicated kits, very intricate kits from a gameplay perspective that would either be difficult for design to implement or would be difficult for programming to add new features that we just don't have right now, that to be able to support certain things. So it's every god is kind of a trade-off, and every god affects different departments differently. And we've done like most of the earlier gods have pretty simple kits. And that's kind of what we were prioritizing with getting gods over quickly earlier on, right? Like Ra. Ra's like 2 lines and a circle, you know? It's like, it's pretty easy. So I think that it depends on what departments are the busiest. And we aren't always successful. We try to spread it out so that like, if programming is a hard god, maybe the next one's a little bit easier, and vice versa for art, right? Yeah. Where it's like, people just aren't doing back-to-back really, really hard gods. Is most of the god kits made in blueprints? Or are we still using majority classical code, while blueprints mostly for prototyping? It depends, but we very heavily use Unreal 5's gameplay ability system, the gas system. Yeah. So basically, we have like hard-coded C++ like gameplay functions that are then mostly called by blueprints and put together in blueprints. So it's a kind of a combination of like most of the logic is in blueprints, but it's anything that is actually like complicated is being done in code, because code performs faster than the blueprints. So it's like, and if we ever find that we run into like a performance bottleneck, then the programming team will go in and they'll, recode a blueprint section as native C++. But then that gives us another gameplay ability that we can use for future god kits. Yep. Huge bash on Ra. I love Ra. Okay. It's just like from a technical perspective, what's hard to implement.
Have we thought about adding god avatars instead of cards on the god page as an option? I believe we have this in Smite.
The smaller. Yeah.
Fit more on one page.
Yeah, I mean, we could. I think that like it was less an issue when we didn't have so many gods. I can see that it's more of an issue now. I think the easiest solution would be if we basically duplicated the lobby grid presentation.
Right, yeah.
And there was just a button to swap between the views. I think we would probably leave the big cards as the default presentation, because I think it's more exciting for new players, getting to see more of the gods. And I think it helps you learn them better, because I think that like just seeing their little faces is very hard to understand who people are. But I can understand the feedback that maybe that's something we should consider for the future. Yeah. Again, probably not our top UI priority, but maybe something that we can consider in the future.
Let's see here.
What silly thing would I bring into Smite, even if it wasn't useful?
That's a good question.
That's such an open-ended question. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's so open-ended. I think... Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a good answer. I thought one was going to come to me as I read the question. Yeah. But I think that
the
like
easy answer is like Smite Cart, but like
yeah. But I think there's just like, I'd love to have a more fleshed out Hercules dungeon, as like an alternate PvE mode within the game, right? Like, but I think that just like right now there's so much like core stuff that we know could be better.
Something like an idle activity that you could do while you're in queue or something.
That could be fun.
Yeah.
I remember when EverQuest added a command that was like /gems, I think, and you could play like it wasn't quite Tetris, but kind of like one of those
like match 3.
Match 3 type games while you were like waiting for your mana to regen. It was great. They also added /pizza. You could order a pizza from Pizza Hut via a / command. It was great. The old days of early multiplayer games. Smite Idle. We would just call that Smitle.
Smitle, yeah. I've seen a couple people asking about community votes. I've seen one person asking about community votes for returning Smite 1 items, and then, of course, I've seen people asking about community votes for gods. I think right now, maybe, but I know the team has been cooking on a lot of cool stuff for some future updates. I think the problem with community votes is that you do run, and there's always a group of the community that feels like they got outvoted, and that doesn't feel good, right? So,
Yeah, I will say, like, we see the things that you're posting,
Yep.
and we do pay attention to community feedback. So if it doesn't feel like we're paying attention, we are. And it's just when we do a real pure vote, it usually leads to more grumpiness than happiness, right? Like even when we opened up the Mulan vote, you know.
Oh yes,
and
I
people,
remember.
it was like 49-51, you know, and we're just like, oh, this is the worst case scenario, you know. So we love involving the community, but community votes are just always so polarizing. Like, it's frustrating. I know Intersect has done a lot of surveys when it comes to God popularity. Do you find his findings are quite similar to your own stats? I would say they are in some ways, and in the ways that they're not, they mostly align with why we would expect they would not, if that makes sense, right? It's like I'm gonna get this is an allegory from Paladins, but I think it's very useful to understand the situation. If you ask the Paladins community, the thing that game needs is more like non-human creatures with weird fantasy ways of fighting, right? Like, give me, you know, an ogre with, you know, an enchanted battle axe who, you know, throws blood at people or something. I don't know, whatever, right? Like, they're like, that's a cool character, right? And that the community consensus was universally like more non-human fantasy archetypes, right? All of the most played characters in the game were humans with traditional guns.
Yeah.
People wanted to play humans with traditional guns. And you needed to have a level of these like fantasy characters to interact with them and like make the world feel like it was the Paladins world. But we were constantly fighting the struggle of like, the community says they want one thing, but they're playing something else. So very similarly, when we do community polls, there are a lot of there's a lot of feedback that like unpopular gods are incredibly highly demanded because usually it's because they offer some unique gameplay hook that we don't have right now, or sometimes it's because you saw them a lot in high level competitive play, and those people tend to be more vocal when you do community polls. And you know, you might feel like this isn't exactly a great example. It's just the first god that came to my mind. But like, you might feel like Naja is missing from the game because he had a role in high level competitive play, but he was I don't know that he is extremely unpopular. This is just an example, you know, but he might have been extremely unpopular in more casual gameplay. Yeah. So it's like, we need to make sure when we're planning what to do that we're balancing between the gods that are actually popular and people want to play a lot. Like, I remember how chat was so upset when we did Izanami. They're like, why would you bring such a boring god over? Izanami has always been one of the most popular gods in the game. Like, all skill levels, all Q types, very popular god, right? But she's boring, you know? So it's like, we have to make sure that we're balancing, though, between the gods that are popular and the gods that are interesting to the community, right? So that's the constant discussion that we're having internally about how do we make sure we're doing the right gods for our players. So Izanami is free in Smite 1. That's why she's popular. She became free because she was popular. If we see a god does really well with new players and they are attracted to them and they play them a lot and they, you know, like, I think she became free because she was the hunter that most people were spending their currency on to unlock first with their, you know, like, you know, it is not a self-fulfilling prophecy most of the time. Most of the time we just lean into what players are telling us they like. Why don't supports have green buff? We've talked about this a little bit before. I think it's one of those things that we could add in, but there's just a lot of other stuff to do on the map right now. And it's just trying to figure out the best place for it. But it's not, they also just, when we were first making Smite 2, they didn't want it to feel like everybody had to get a buff, because in Smite 2, you can pick up multiple buffs. So, you know, if we added a green buff, then is it just the jungler now also gets the green buff? Or, you know, like, I don't know. I think that it's something that we will continue to consider, but one of those things that we didn't realize how attached to it a certain segment of the community would be.
Someone's asking, can we see ranked borders? They are not done yet.
Yes.
That's why
Yeah.
we aren't showing them off. But they will be in Open Beta 10. And as we get closer to that Open Beta 10 show, I'm sure we'll be able to pull them up and show them off.
Yep. This is two good bug reports. If you could type these down for me. Sorry. Agni Dash doesn't hit where his dash starts and behind it. And Rama 1 autos are knocking minions to the side instead of just back. So we will take a look at those. Thank you.
And what was the Rama minions?
His 1 is knocking minions to the side and instead of just back.
Cool. Got it.
Sweet.
It's 2 o'clock. So it's time for one more question. And we'll get back to it.
I love how it just changes colors
right?
randomly behind me. I think it's when I'm being loud. Maybe I
Yeah.
should be less loud. But that's
funny
for me.
No, man, just be loud and like have it strobe in here. Oh, since you have the huge slide deck of gods that we look at internally, how does research and development for a new god happen? Is it just, hey, this is a cool idea, or do we have a pile of ideas and keep building off of them?
Yeah, so we have a pile of
Yes.
ideas. We have we kind of organize it into just like a slideshow. I don't know why. That's just been the way. I think 'cause it's easier for people to just add a slide and be like, here's a god that I want to put into the game. I think, and basically like what we look for on the slide is who is the god, like really quickly, like give us like what is their lore or what is the default understanding of this character, right? Have some mood board imagery of like this is how I would want this character to look in the game, and then explain their unique visual hook. How do they look different from any other god in the game? Because if you look too similar, then it's not good. What is their unique gameplay hook? So what are the things that they are doing in the game that are unique? And what kind of player are they trying to hit? So some gods we intentionally position more towards like new players. Some are more high-end, high-skill ranked gods. Recently we've been doing more and more high-skill gods because that's what people tend to react best to. But every once in a while, like we do have more like new player-focused gods, like Danzaburo was actually intended as kind of like a bit more of a new player god, and a different visual archetype than we'd ever kind of done before, a different kind of weapon than we'd ever done before, So like, and then like what role they are, what position they're going to play on the map most usually, right? And then when we're putting together a calendar, we need to balance between like the roles, different pantheons, so we're not hitting the same people over and over, different, and then what are balancing unique visual types, unique gameplay hooks, and making it interesting. So that's how we think about doing gods. Yeah. And I have to pick a question. I don't have any hints on aspects. Sorry, I was asking about aspects this morning. Let's see. Hard to find a good
Pick
question.
a good one. Yeah,
I know.
To close
I feel
out
like
the
I waited
week.
too long. Closing off the week. Yeah, it's been a great week. I guess I'll just say real quick. Appreciate everybody for tuning in this
absolutely.
week.
Yeah.
We're excited for OB9 on Monday with lots of good stuff. And if you are looking for something to play this weekend, Star Siege Dead Zone Rogue is the name of the game. From our sister studio is out. It's pretty fun. It's a FPS co-op roguelike. The guys that work on it are right down the hall from us, and they're a bunch of great guys. A lot of them used to work on Smite. If you're looking for that kind of a game, you can check it out. It's on Steam. And let's see. We didn't do an online check.
Cherry Twist
Cherry
for
Twist.
both of us. Yeah.
Both Cherry Twisters. Oh, no.
Bangers.
Oh, no. My
I
audio.
think we're good.
Okay,
there we go. We're
yes.
back.
I'm just going to say, how do we feel about the state of hybrid? Are we open to giving some gods, not heroes, more in scaling, like Ares, for example? Currently, it feels like only 5% of the entire cast can go into a different build. I think that we feel like it is a good system that we can definitely do more with, right? And we may at some point go back and add hybrid scaling to gods that didn't get it. I think, though, that it is important to us that not every god is hybrid scaling, and that there are some gods that are just physical or just int, right? Or just strength or just int, right? And I know that there's always going to be an argument about which gods get chosen for those, but we do believe that it's good that certain gods are not hybrid, right? So again, good that certain gods are not hybrid. We think that hybrid scalings are good, and we like that it encourages multiple builds. We are hopeful that with our continued item balance work, that you will find multiple valid hybrid builds for a lot of gods. I played, pure strength crit Athena jungle at Hindu Man's urging.
Did you run the Hydras build?
I did. It was Hydras and then all the crit items, and I was like reaching for like 1,000 damage. It was great, and it was very viable in my level of gameplay. And I'm not a high-end ranked player, but in every game you're going to see that at the highest levels, things consolidate down to where it's perceived that there are fewer viable builds, right? It's like, even if you're like raiding in WoW or whatever, right? There's one skill tree that is like, you got to do that, or otherwise you're just throwing, right? But if you're playing at like any level below the top 1%, there's almost always more viable options than people admit that they are. They just might not be meta. Yeah. So I would say that like, we think that there are a lot of viable options, and it's pretty hard to build yourself into a bad place on most of these hybrid things, and you can do a lot of interesting builds. Yeah. But it's just at the top, even when we started this, there was always going to be one meta build at a time for any character, maybe two meta builds, but it's not going to be, it's just the way that it works, right? People that are optimizing the last percentage are going to do that, and they're going to find the best build, and they're going to use that build, or what they perceive to be the best build, right? But we think that it's still fun for players, for content creators, for people that just want to like have fun and do silly stuff, to be able to do silly stuff and have it work, right? So we like the system.
Sweet. Well, Kilgoon, thanks so much for hopping on for another edition of Titan Talk. Chat, thanks so much for hanging out. Hope everyone has a great weekend, and we will see you back on Monday for the Open Beta 9 release with Guan Yu and a whole lot of other cool stuff. So until then, we will see you all on the battleground. Peace.